And now some chilled discussion after the week's angst, with the Doctor Who Detox Hour, or two. It's Friday. It's Crackerjack. Run century, run decade, run everything. After Wednesday's Bigenerates chat full of confusion and frustration with the way RTD is running the show, talking about staff yet appointing other equally controversial people, I do need a right royal detox on this Friday morn of February the 7th, 2025. Doctor Who, I mean, let's go back here. Doctor Who used to bring distraction, escapism, fun, adventure, heroism, perils, frights, worlds to travel to. By the time you'd embraced it all, even in 25 minutes, your little troubles with school, the family, your brother, homework, pocket money's run out, had all gone. Then you could relive your best memories, that's all there were, of course, in those days, by reading a Target book in bed. A real detox. So see yours as your Target book in bed, the escapist world, until I have to press the toxic level alarm if we do break our detox therapy code and go very political and present season. Normally it's me who self-destructs, as you know, every week. So we have our ups and downs item, our ups and downs of the Time Wrote a week. As whovians, I have a new segment, Get It Off Your Chest. Wonder who's really bothered about that one, apart from moi. We have a season 19 retrospective, hence the thumbnail. We have the legacy ladder. We look at some of the former producers and who had the biggest impact on Doctor Who. Lots of usual chat. Got my friends on. Let's get going. So here we go. So let's see who's up on the. Who's the first taxi on the rank here? Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
G'day, Brendan. Hello, everyone.
Well, are you ready for another toxic detox?
Yeah, no, I'm always ready for a chat about the old Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, what have you got in your hands there? Let's have a look. Is this a
real Sea Devil?
Oh, yes, very much a very real seal. I'd have that. Yes, that's very nice. That would have me scared.
I was just reading something on the Longleat report, and I thought, God, everyone's always going on about bloody Longleat, but actually this is back then, so that's probably fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, don't start me. You know, don't mention the Longleat word to me. You know what I'm like? I was at Longleat. So, good to see you, Dan. And we'll get Dwayne on because, Dan, we'll have to watch our language. We were slagging him off last week.
Well.
Oh, do you think he's watched?
He's had a whole week of Invasion in Time, I think.
I don't think he watched us. He didn't know. So we'll just be nice as pie. Ready? Okay, right, here we go. Hiya, Dwayne. How are you doing?
G'day, fellas. I'm doing great. And you're lucky to have me back after last week.
We were going to say we really missed you. And it was just, we didn't know what to say while you weren't here.
It's just what...
I suppose you have to make up something. It's what I've come to expect from Dan anyway.
Well, I didn't know you weren't going to be there, but I figured, this is what makes sure, it'll make sure that you don't disappear on us again.
Yeah, that's it. Catch him out. So
sorry about that. I had to have a life that night. I'm sorry. This is living too. Sorry.
Are you saying people that watch Doctor Who don't have a life?
Why would I say that? No, I wouldn't say that.
Cancel.
That at all. All I do know is Big Finish is canon, and I've got a lot to say about that.
Oh God, here we go. I know, and he has a secret Jodie doll and all the rest of it. I know. Well, it's still kind of just after breakfast in Britain, so there you go. I wouldn't mind that Dalek. Look at him; it's lovely. But I think there might be some undigestible pieces, though. I think that's the one problem with that one. What's your weather like in Australia then? Because you're past supper now anyway. Has it been a good day?
Yeah, it's quite warm and sunny up here at the moment.
You see, classic British monster, British weather. Look at those Jadoon with an umbrella. I just love that kind of mix. You know, they can be all conquering aliens, but they have to fight the British weather and British quarries and all the rest of it.
It's they kind of, to me, the Jadoon kind of have that like their uniform to me is closer to like how I sort of envisaged what I would have expected New Sontarans to be like.
Yeah, with that, they've got a nose issue. That's one of the things. And well, it is an Australian detox. I noticed this old advert. Did any of you lads see this advert with Tom Bacon, Wind in the Willows?
Yes, saw it many times, and I am still taking his advice to this day.
So Australia is still preserved and conserved and looked after thanks to the Tom Baker advert there, and not to do with the Praxeus episode.
The what?
Oh, I know. Sorry. I should press the detox button straight away. And she's coming back, isn't she? Sirens of Audio, Janet?
Yes, she will be in Canberra on the 1st of March. So anyone in Canberra or surrounds, Dan, you could get down to. It's only a few hours away from you. Get down and see Janet in Canberra. Go on.
Isn't that when Matthew's coming?
He's coming the end of March. She's at the start.
Yeah, she won't be with him, Dan.
Yeah. Will they get in the same room together? Is it a bit tense?
They will not.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about tension. Actually, we can't put them together. We get all the best stories when they're separate. See,
this is. Yeah. I just want to do a spoiler reveal. This is the new outfit for season 2's Ncuti Gatwa. There you go.
I like it already.
The new outfit. Unbelievable. What do you think of that, Dan?
He could pull that off. Yeah. Why not?
They've gone retro.
So to speak.
See, you know, they should have done something like that, you know. And it gives you that flamboyance, but it's classic.
Do you know the other thing that has happened here, though? If you did do something like this, is it takes away the here's my chest, here's my biceps, here's my pecs. It actually just takes him back to just being the Doctor. I was trying to think, why does this change Ncuti? Ncuti will now have to just. Do you know what I mean? I think he's not going to be showing off his vests and all the rest of it. It's just.
Is this a real photo or is it photoshopped? Like
it's
did he actually pose for it?
No, it's Photoshop. Don't worry, he wouldn't be seen dead in that. Not what when he's been to the gym? Why would he wear all that?
I thought it looked like it was in good shape.
Now, you know, people, one of the big things that divided us all in Doctor Who was the 13th Doctor. Should you have a female Doctor? But it's been solved. So you can now decide whether you would prefer the male 13th Doctor or the female 13th Doctor. And there you go. I mean, it works, doesn't it? It works. Mind you, he suddenly looks like Captain America or somebody now. I mean, he looks like an all-American now, Jodie, as a man.
That's a very thick neck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Disturbing.
Am I starting to make this very toxic? Am I just going too far?
I'm in pain. I'm reaching for the Panadol.
So remember, everybody, this is the Detox on Friday with my Aussie mates. And the point is, we know there's a lot of rumour and chaos in Doctor Who as per usual, and we try and balance it with nostalgia, fun and laughs. And so, of course, we're well aware, yes, as I'm going to always, I've got nightmares that he goes to that gay nightclub in Joy to the World for a whole year. We keep seeing our Doctor actor in so many strange poses. The nightmares. This is why I've got the Detox. So this is why we're here. And as you know, our first item, lads, that we normally do to try and kind of bring your agenda to it is your ups and downs of the Doctor Who week. So here we go. Okay, so Dan, I know you've got a life, but anything up or down regarding this week in Doctor Who?
Well, probably I haven't paid much attention to the bad news or the good news, so it's been a good week.
Yeah, you'll be chilled, yeah. What about you, Joanne? You went and had a life, apparently, so that you obviously feel good with the world.
I did. I went to a food and music festival in Launceston nearby and saw a couple of Aussie bands. If any Aussie people in the chat will remember Killing Heidi and Birds of Tokyo. Saw those two bands and a few stand-up comedians as well. That was a lot of fun. In terms of Doctor Who ups, I've been working this week on our 2024 Big Finish retrospective. So we did a massive show featuring our favourites from the whole year. But that is also a down because working on that episode just burnt me out. So I don't want anything to do with it for a little while because it was so big. But anyone who wants to see what our favourites I know you'll be riveted to that, Brendan and Dan. Our favourite big finishes from 2024 that comes out later today in the UK.
I know I've got ironing to do. Ironing and hoovering, I think I've got to do. Yeah.
I guess the big down for this last week for me was tuning into last week's Detox because, you know, as good as the banter was, there was quite a few comments there that I think you let slip a few things that you wouldn't normally let slip if I was actually there. Like,
were we unprofessional?
No.
What that you like Invasion of Time?
I do love Invasion of Time. I love it. That's Image of the Fendal I don't like.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's your memory playing tricks on you. But Brendan, you were saying how you're not sort of as invested in the wilderness years as everyone else is. So all these things that came out of the wilderness years, you're just interested in the TV show and that's it. And I was getting really, really upset. I was thinking, how can I convince you that there are some really good stories out there outside of the TV show, and how sad it must be for those at the moment invested in just the TV show, because the TV show's pretty crap, to be honest.
It's all or nothing.
And there's yeah.
That's the problem. It's all or nothing for somebody like me, who refuses the other. I mean, I did buy some Big Finish over the years. You know, there's one or two that always look juicy. Like there's the Genesis of the Cybermen coming up that looks a bit juicy for me. You know, a few Master ones over the years, but I end up not listening to them. Now, the thread's on fire. I mean, they really are wanting us to do a good therapy session today. Thomas McCarthy, RTD confused his politics with Doctor Who itself. He believes he owns it instead of being a custodian. It's all about him now, his personal Little Britain parody, the only dictator in the village. Well, we've got an item coming up, Thomas, called Get It Off Your Chest. I think you've gone early. You've gone early. Raymond Williams, odds of 20-1 look tempting. There could be season 3 in 2026, but certainly there will be no season 4. We will be discussing that, as you know, today, Raymond, with the latest bits and bobs. When I self-destruct the whole therapy by going toxic, you know what I'm like. I can't help myself. But on the ups and downs of the week, I mean, you know, I'm always searching the internet and everything. But Carol Ann Ford, bless her, she was on Pointless, which unfortunately is unfortunate as a title, but maybe her Susan arc was pointless, but let's hope it has a point. But there she is. She's still going. We can still grab her for Doctor Who. She's available.
Don't put her in the current show, please. Leave her out. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree. Have you heard any of the Big Finish ones with Susan?
Absolutely, I have. Yeah, she's fantastic in those.
Yeah. And you've interviewed her as well, haven't you, anyway?
I beg your pardon?
You've interviewed her as well, haven't you?
Yes, we did only last year, so about 6 or 7 months ago.
Yeah.
We had her on the podcast. Yeah, lovely lady. Still full of energy.
Yeah, she was very nice to Walkie, the puppet, to us. She was very nice to him. In fact, she adopted him, really. I mean, John Daly was behind me in the queue and he was desperate to sit next to one of the original cast. And I accidentally was getting all this attention while the cameraman, the camera film something wasn't working. And so I was sat in prime position next to her with a puppet. And she just said, "Can I have the puppet?" She put her hand in it, She was talking as if she was a puppet, talking to me. Why was it an old puppet? And I said, well, it's the William Hartnell puppet. I'm lying. And we just had a chat. And there's John Daly going mad. I want to. And then he was rushed through, like, you've got 2 seconds, bang. And I thought, oh, how lucky was I? No, she's lovely, lovely.
So I bet that puppet's never getting washed again.
Well, this is it. This is the way you see everybody. I saw this just on the internet the other day, just the Sutek mask. And of course, it reminded us how far we've sank. But look, fair dues, and I will say fair dues. We know that, I suppose, if I was going to be kind for a second, it won't last. The RTD's latest Sutek, the dog, it's not far off that in a way, is it, to be honest, lads? The dog concept.
Well, Sutek was a jackal, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just how far are we being picky? And I'm really calling myself out, which is, you look at Empire of Death, and it was more CGI blooming Sutek. But
no, but the problem with Sutek was he deliberately made a point of ripping away all the Egyptology from it and distancing the Osirians from Egyptology because it's appropriation, which makes him the world's biggest tosser.
Yeah. Now, my up of the week so far, it will start going down because it's a 6 episoder. Is I've watched 3 episodes of Invasion of Time this week, with the upgrade, and it does
that
take
shot's not from that shot doesn't have the special effects.
No, I had to remind us of the original when it was just plastic sheets. But it's a funny one, isn't it? It's a funny one because it's a game of 2 halves, Invasion of Time, isn't it? Because you've got the first 3 episodes when you really are wondering what the 4th Doctor's up to. Then you've got the conceits of that room of lead and all the rest of it, and you start to realize, and he's horrible to Leela and all the rest of it, and I like his banter with Barusa. And then the Sontarans arrive, which really should be the game changer for me. I mean, that cliffhanger that I'm about to see probably tonight when they arrive. I mean, come on, that's fantastic. And then they have a Cockney accent. They look different. They have funny eyebrows. And then we chase around the swimming pool. And you know what happens next. And you think, oh, it had it and then it didn't.
They need the eyebrows trimmed. I still find the funniest thing in Invasion Time where when the Vardens finally materialize, it's just something so funny about the manifestation, the human manifestation in the Vardens. It's like these guys are the most unlikely people to take over Gallifrey.
Well, and Jamie was saying, he said they have such young voices, the actors. It is something weird about it. I don't know what it was when I originally saw it. And obviously it doesn't matter how they've changed the effects because it's the same voices, but they sound quite young. They don't sound menacing. It's weird, really. It's weird. They just sound like civil servants.
They seem very, very... They take themselves very seriously when they turn up with no sense of humor.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when the Doctor at the end of episode 2 starts laughing, when they arrive, and as a kid you're going, what is going on here, what is going on? And you weren't quite sure if you liked it because it was quite a manic laugh. It was so yes, ups and downs of the week, but part of my ups every week is Tinted Who does these amazing colorizations, and I'm a glutton for them. So the first one isn't from Tinted Who. This is from Thin King, who was obviously one of our followers, and I follow him, and he did this one. So I'll just go big screen. I mean, yes, I do like that. Patrick Troughton, I mean, look, he was a good character actor. And then you've got, which one's that one from, lads?
That'd be the
Ball
Dominators
games.
or the Crotons.
Yeah. So the good old Crotons from the Five Faces. You've got the chase. I love all this. I just love all this. I love the bright colors. I just don't care. The black and white, this 60s vibe. Just love it. And I still have my own argument that I think color will just add to it. Of course, we've seen pictures of the Aztecs in color, but these colorizations, you go, I think the Aztecs would be a very, very good colorization. I really do. Without it being butchered or edited or anything.
It might make it more interesting.
Well, I think so. And sellable, because we keep saying all the time that when Jerry Anderson made that very wise decision to make the Thunderbirds and everything in color, he bought longevity to his franchise. Now, we could buy into this with the 60s Doctor Who and get new people, really, the ones who seem to be snobs about black and white. Although, as we were saying before the show started, the youngsters seem to be getting into all this retro stuff. So maybe black and white might be the vibe.
Did you see Harbo Holmes's video proposing, the remaking of some of this, which I thought he had some good points. Worth watching.
I know I've argued ages ago when it was whether you cancel, reboot, rest, and all the rest of it, that one version could be to make some of the old ones again, but that went down like a pan of cold sick when I said that.
Well, the funny thing was he called out the leaky plan that they had where they were going to just redo some of the super duper favorites like Shock and Genesis and that, and he basically said, don't do that. Do focus on the ones where the potential was there, but the production didn't quite live up to the story.
Yeah,
I kind of agree with, or if they're completely missing.
That's where I fell flat when I discussed that and spoke as I was thinking at the time, and lots of people in the thread said you can't do that, because I did mention classics first, and then I think no, don't touch classics. Then you start thinking, well, should you touch Underworld and just redo it? But then it's without the Fourth Doctor. Then it's without Leela. I mean,
and what's Underworld without crap CGI? Just
exactly
CSO.
There has to be something else to it. Yeah, that I do like the Rutan upgrade, but I also do like the original actually, because there's a texture to it that I like as well. I mean, you can't deny that's what we saw the first time round, and we didn't turn away from
Tom Baker calls him Oyster Face, and he actually does look like a glowing green oyster. Now, but the new one doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, it looks good. It looks good.
Like
I mean,
a Dalek.
yeah. So, yes, not so hot. So there's our colorizations that I'm a glutton for. Now, this is one little segment just to get your taste buds going. And I want to see what the thread we're going to say, because if I did what was on this day in Doctor Who history, it's episode 2 of everything that we said last week of episode 1. So that's a little bit repetitive. So I just thought, well, I'll shake it up a little bit. So now and again, we'll have the legacy ladder, lads, right? And here on the legacy ladder, I'll pick people from Doctor Who history. And I've thrown quite a panel together today. And I want to ask you, who would you argue? And I know it's just one of those kind of pub chat items. Who would you argue out of these 4 producers who had the biggest impact on Doctor Who history to you? I know we can talk about various things, but the point is, it's what do you think in your enjoyment of Doctor Who had the best impact for you? I mean, what are your thoughts, Dwayne, as you look at these 4?
Oh, absolutely. For me, it's Barry Letts, because he was the era that I fell in love with, first of all, and it was being repeated constantly throughout the early 80s. So I always consider the Third Doctor to be my Doctor. Very closely associated with Graham Williams as well, because I started my off-air recordings with my old beta tapes with the Robots of Death, so I went instantly into the Graham Williams era pretty much, and have watched his episodes time and time again, because it was part of my early collection. So yeah, Barry Letts first, because that was my deep love, and I was recording, Graham Williams I was recording on tape, but Barry Letts I was even recording onto cassette with a cassette recorder. Listening to the soundtracks. I
And
guess that's why I like audio so much, because I've listened to those on audio as well as watching them many times.
well, I'll just come in now for a second because it's right. SG's right. As I make all these slides, sometimes I don't know. I lose myself. Graham there is spelt like Graham Garden. It's not spelt like that. So that's a mistake to Graham Williams. I apologize to Graham Williams there. If he was watching me from above, but yeah, Graham spelled it differently there. What are you thinking, Dan, about these four?
Well, probably out of those four, J and T was pretty impactful, given that I'm a child of the 80s. So, but Philip Hinchcliffe's probably the other one that's not there that would definitely probably have produced the most of my childhood Doctor Who, which was Tom Baker.
Yeah, I don't know. You give me horrible reminders of when I was at school as a teacher, and you set an exam and they answer a different question. No, I know what you're saying. Philip Hinchcliffe will come up one day. Don't worry. So you're saying out of those, John Nathan Turner for you?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Is there anything you want to list that John Nathan Turner did that you think had a massive impact for you?
Oh, well, I think given that he just produced nearly 10 years of classic Doctor Who, and it was right through that era that I was growing up with, I guess. And he was the name on everything. He was the personality. A lot of the stuff that I've got back there, he's got his signature on it.
Okay, and what do you want to explain your kind of thought process, Dwayne?
I think for me, that era represents a real safe space for me. I find it confusing when younger viewers often and reviewers often refer to that era as the Doctor being very arrogant and very overbearing and not very likable. Whereas for me, the third Doctor is someone I would always want to hang out with. He was the kind of person that would be a kind of big, sort of eccentric uncle. And he was, it was a very safe space. But as far as Barry Letts goes, can you imagine a team like Barry Letts and Dix today? I don't think, because I see in RTD lots and lots of jobs for the boys, so everyone thinking the same things. The beauty of Dix and Letts is that they were on opposite ends of the political spectrum. So they were able to bring ideas together and meet in the middle, but their primary focus was to entertain their audience rather than push any kind of message. We both know what their views were on different things, but they were interested in doing an entertaining show. And that's what that era was all about. It was all about adventures, either set on Earth or eventually out in space again. But that's what it was about, the adventure.
And they were happy to employ people like Malcolm Hulke, who they knew his background. I mean, they didn't want an echo chamber. Now, just to add to our mix here, Jeremy is just doing a nice one-off cameo on a Friday. He's decided to join us on Friday.
You right?
Jeremy?
Now, Jeremy,
can you hear me?
Yes. Now, Jeremy, you've joined us at a key little debate here that every Doctor Who fan over the years does talk about in various ways. The producers of Doctor Who. Now, I've lost my leave of senses with my spellings today, which is very weird for me. But apart from that, John Nathan Turner spelled differently as well, really. But out of those four choices, who do you think has the biggest legacy on what you like about Doctor Who? Out of those four.
Definitely, I'll say Barry Letts, without a doubt. I think it was just a classic era of Doctor Who. And then I would say probably John Nathan Turner. But I mean, Verity Lambert deserves quite a lot of credit for starting the programme as producer and setting it on the right foundations. Graham Williams' era was, I think it was beset with monetary problems, I think, and budget problems.
You see, I included him not to be sly, but now and again you need to think, well, hold on, Graham Williams, he came up with the Ark, the Key to Time. He did actually, I mean, bless him, he was going to do the Nightmare Fair, in the cancelled season. And that would have been interesting because he would have brought the toy maker back. you just wonder whether actually, and he did co-write some of the stories. He changed some of the script of City of Death. He co-wrote the Invasion of Time. Under his era, we had Romana. Romana's quite key to Doctor Who nowadays.
I think if they'd had a little bit more money, I think that they could have done quite a lot.
Yeah, the Lost Shada, of course.
Is K9's his era, isn't it?
I don't know if he just arrived at the end of Hinchcliffe's, was it? I'm trying to think.
Invisible Enemy, when was that? That was
77.
It's certainly around.
him.
It might be. I mean, Barry Letts is interesting because you've two of you have mentioned Barry Letts, and of course it hits my era too. But he started obviously with Enemy of the World, directing that, so you've got a key one straight away when he saw the doppelganger for Troughton. He started producing properly from the Silurians onwards. He obviously experimented with all the CSO. I mean, we were joking about Underworld, but all the way through CSO, you think Barry Letts. First multi-doctor story. He was the one who took it from 40 episodes down to 26. He made that decision that they were going to do 2 weeks rehearsal, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Did that give it longevity? He introduced the very famous time tunnel introduction sequence. Once they changed
you mentioned the key to time, but he also introduced a season arc as well. In season 8 was virtually an arc of the Master arc, which sort of started with the appearance and then him being arrested at the end. So that was quite a pioneering arc as well.
It's. I do find this it's interesting. It just depends what you think your impact is. Bless her. I always do think of Verity and her fights. And, I can't actually say what Sidney Newman totally said. He said she was full of, he said she was full of piss and vinegar, didn't he? He said she was a right fighter. And I have to say, she's a fighter who defends the program and advocates for the program, but doesn't destroy the program by imposing something else. What she imposed was a protection of this program. I just wish, even in that Adventure in Time and Space, I wish we could have seen, really a documentary. You can't do it because there was nothing filmed, but I'd love to have seen those meetings when she was sat there with the radiophonic workshop and they were coming up with this weird music and she was saying whether that was good or bad. I mean, I wanted to see their reaction because she was there for all these decisions. The design of the TARDIS console, the design of the special effects, the choice of William Hartnell. I mean, my God.
I mean, it is amazing when you, like, if you were to look at, say, Shooty's first episode and you look at Unearthly Child, there are so many things in Unearthly Child that basically, the current series, like, there's so many attributes that are just ever present right through the whole show, even to today, which, which makes the case easy to say that Verity had the biggest impact.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I mean, there's people. I mean, the thread. I know it's one of those questions. It's a good little pub question, but it depends when you join the program and what you think are key to what the program is. I have to say, that might lead your decision on those 4 people. So if I bring in a few people here from the thread, so Alphabet Cat is keeping me right, but he also said he also brought in satire with the Sunmakers. That's Graham Williams. If you have to get rid of the violence, what's left? The satire, unfortunately, probably led to that Douglas Adams university humor period. I don't know. I made it popular,
which is fantastic.
It is. It made it popular in universities, but and as a younger kid, I was all right with it. But some people said that's the start of Tom Baker starting to,
The next show I'm off, you're going to really lay into Douglas Adams, aren't you?
That's it. I'm going to just take any sound bites you say today, and we're going to just put them up like little punch bags. That's it.
So the thing with these like Verity Lambert and Barry Letts in particular is that they weren't showrunners. They were collaborators. So even Sidney Newman and Verity Lambert, they were collaborating on that. She stood
Yeah.
up to him, but it was a collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Letts and Dix, full-on collaboration. That you never saw Barry Letts as like the chief honcho. Like he was in charge,
Yeah.
but he was using all these other people to get. And same with Terrence Dix. He was there as a facilitator for everyone else to come together and bring this work. You don't see that today. You see a man at the top of the pile with all his mates underneath. It's just not done in the same way, and we don't get good quality as a result. It's not just Doctor Who. You see it in lots and lots of different television.
We only had one producer back then. Now it's 7 executive producers.
Yeah,
that's right.
Oh,
Executive producers all over the place.
Yeah. Well, the other thing on Barry Letts, and it's just that Barry Letts, as I have to say, when you look at all 4 of these producers, you list the things that were introduced or changed, and Barry Letts is getting longer and longer. The other thing, he cast Tom Baker. I mean,
yes,
hello. So yes, Verity Lambert, you cast William Hartnell, and that's a very good decision. And the pilot's interesting because he was a little bit more brusque in that one, and they softened him. And I wonder if that there's a story there somewhere about whether she wanted it that way or Sidney Newman or others pushed it back. But then you've got Barry Letts picks Tom Baker, the longest serving Doctor, the one that is a default, the man with the scarf. That's the one. The jelly babies. That's the one.
So even JNT, you could view him as probably the closest to the showrunner type person that we get today. But even he was a collaborator because he didn't jump in and write stuff.
Yeah.
He brought in other writers. He allowed his script editor to bring in people, and they collaborated on that. He put his foot down on a few things here and there that we hear about. No doubt the other producers did too. We just haven't heard about them so much. But he was a collaborator also. So it's that collaboration that I think is missing in a lot of good television.
And it's
especially our show.
And it's interesting how Barry Letts, but they're saying mentored, as Geraint Williams says. I know he's executive producer on season 18. I wonder how that's sat. They were not sure whether JNT had enough proper production experience. That was what it was. As it was, I think my understanding is he seemed to just manage quite nicely, and I think it made a tiny bit more tension. But Barry Letts oversaw the final year for Tom Baker, having cast him. So that was neat, I suppose. But yeah, so there you go.
I suspect Barry wouldn't have done a great deal on season 18.
No,
he would have just been there in name only, pretty much.
So from our panel, it looks as though, although I've given a lot of us have given an honourable mention to Verity Lambert, really, and Dan's squeaking in there with a John Nathan Turner addition, but I think Barry Letts has won that one. I think Barry Letts has won on the legacy of all those discussions, all those ideas. The master, it just goes on. It just goes on. There's some amazing stuff that we got from that era. And I think the biggest call out is actually what you said, Dwayne, is that collegiate atmosphere. Because every time you hear Barry Letts in an interview or anything, he doesn't sound as though he's the big kind of dictator of the show. He sounded as though he's got an ear. He always had a mind of a director, didn't he? That was the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me just kind of reflect one or two very interesting points coming on here, and then we'll move on. Paul says, Verity saw how important the Daleks could be for the show when no one else could, which was so instrumental for the show's success going forward. It's one of those timey-wimeys. If she had lost that decision or decided not to risk her career arguing with Sidney Newman and the Daleks were dropped, would Doctor Who have lasted as long? I mean, we'll never know, but maybe...
I don't think it would have lasted as long. I think it would have just been a show about the Doctor going back and forward in time, an occasional planet or somewhere.
I do wonder whether Doctor Who would have turned into a Lost in Space or something that lasted a few years.
It could have been something similar to the Time Tunnel, Owen Allen's Time Tunnel,
Yeah.
Imagine if it was just like Aztecs and Marco Polo and the historicals and no Daleks. That would have been pretty dry on its own, I reckon.
Yeah. Anthony Parkinson, never have we had less Doctor Who. Never have we had lower rated Doctor Who. Never have... Oh, I'm going to have to press the toxic alarm at this rate.
Yeah, it's super toxic.
I'm not disagreeing with you though. Adrian, the most underrated man in Classic Who, as now, Adrian, I might bring him up later. This is the legacy game we're going to do when I can't just keep repeating the same episodes that we had on last week. You know,
Problem with Wiles is that a lot of his stuff is missing. That's
I know it.
So much of his era is just not there.
What was? How much was Innes Lloyd's?
Cybermen.
Yeah, so it was like the last season.
Changing the Doctor, regeneration, all that stuff.
It's interesting to note that Barry Letts was actually an actor.
Yeah,
many years ago, before he became producer. I've seen him in a few bits and bobs. He was all right. He was quite possible as an actor.
He's nice to listen to. He just sounds like a calming influence. I know he was a Buddhist as well. I think the whole thing flows together. He's a calm man. Thomas McCarthy, previous showrunners loved sci-fi instead of themselves and passed it off on as a gift. RTD isn't interested in sci-fi, just ideology. We were just saying before the show started, weren't we, Dwayne, about you have reflected when you go back to some new Who and then you look at your classic Who, and you said it's the law of diminishing returns on new Who nowadays. It feels like to you?
It does. The way I've been feeling since, over the last 7 years. And now every time, and particularly the last year, now I go back and look at the early stuff and it's like, oh, I'm not enjoying it more. Whereas with classic, I'll always go back and find something new, something to enjoy, even in things like Image of the Fendal or Underworld, So yeah, I just don't get that with New Who. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's been my worry all along, that we did enjoy New Who at the time. Or some of us, I always talk about Stolen Earth, and some episodes just grabbed you. You look back at the era and you just think, oh, I don't think it's not got longevity. It's just not got impact. It needs the cliffhangers. It needs the whole world built up. It's too fast and furious and loud and brash, but empty. Crimpling, Doctor Who owes its success to the Daleks, and the Daleks owe their existence to Tony Hancock's firing his Hereditary Nation. So Doctor Who owes its success to Tony Hancock. Oh, it's like the house that Jack built, isn't it? It's one of those. David Hardin, good to see you in, I think, Toronto. All of them were able to put their mark on the show without overturning the apple cart. I think, David, what we're saying very, very politely is they didn't let their ego get in the way. They kept their professionalism at the front of the issue. Innes Lloyd wasn't a sci-fi fan and didn't know much about sci-fi, hence all the base under siege stories and the monster season. And didn't we love it? You don't, and I have always said,
I don't think any of them were sci-fi fans as such. They were fans of doing their job well and entertaining the audience, which is what the job of a producer should be.
Yeah, exactly. Adaptable. Look at what's going on out there. Get the best talent, etc., etc. So,
key point, not about them.
Oh, too right, too right. So, I thank them all for what they've done to the program. It's just a nice bit of a pub chat. I mean, I can't criticize any of them actually. I think they've all added stuff to the program. I admit Graham Williams had a very difficult era, but well done him. He kept Doctor Who on the road actually. Despite the budget cuts, despite it being unpopular, despite all the other things, he kept it going. So I do laud him. John Nathan Turner equally so for, what he did over that long period when it started to limp a bit. I think Barry Letts was genius at asking questions, I always talk about the Blinovich limitation effect. I mean, to have that conversation, I wish RTD sat down with any of his script editors and said, how are we going to make this fantasy make sense? Instead, he just says, I'm not going to explain 73 yards. I'm not going to explain anything. And you think, no, but Terence Dix and Barry Letts sat down and had a conversation in all their busy meetings and discussed the Blinovich limitation effect. I mean, thank you. Thank you for that. You could have gone to
the other important thing to point out about these 4 producers over the classic series is that none of them, you mentioned all the things that they did do. One of the things they didn't do was go and retrospectively crap on any of their predecessors' eras.
No,
they just worked on adding to the show and moving forward, they never really. Oh, you might say J&T started to pay homage to the past, but he was always super respectful, I guess.
I think so. I think so. Right. Okay, let's cheer ourselves. Well, I say cheer ourselves up. Let's just change tangent here. We've got a very nasty toxic item coming up soon, folks. So just stick with us. But for now, we are Doctor Who fans. I'm going to ask everybody on this panel and the thread, which one are you going to buy out of this lot? Here we go. Well, there's a lot of merchandise going on out there, so I'm going to really breeze through, lads, and say, right, what are you going to buy? What are you going to get, your hand in your pocket for? Now, I've already got that script, Doctor, so I'm not going to buy that, but it's been upgraded and new cover and everything. And if you haven't got it, would you recommend buying the Andrew Cartmel script, Doctor, lads?
No.
I haven't read it, but I would. I would be absolutely interested in it.
You hear what he says. It's not well written, I have to say, which is a bit of a shocker. But I don't like the Cartmel plan, so I'll still read it, of course, but I wasn't interested in what his ideas were. I didn't like them. Anyway,
why didn't you like the Cartmel plan?
Look, saying the Doctor goes dark, yes, I agree with that as a concept, but the way they executed it, I didn't. Making him... He was kind of a version of a space Jesus but I call him a space womble. He kept leaving the Hand of Omega clutter over there. He left, that strange silver nemesis over there. He cluttered the universe.
Oh, here we go.
And he was the most genocidal Doctor going. I'll wreck Skaro. I've trapped the Cybermen. Now I'm going to wreck the whole fleet. I've never seen any Doctor.
It wasn't the 7th Doctor that left the Hand of Omega. It was the 1st Doctor.
Oh, apparently, yeah.
Wasn't he an old geezer with white hair?
And he had an amnesia and he forgot where Hand of Omega was. Yes, I just thought for a while. Their unfortunate thing was that they shouldn't have put Remembrance of the Daleks only in the same season as Silver Nemesis, because it was the same story twice.
That's right.
Really. And that, come on, you're a script editor, Andrew Cartmel. Anyway, so that book's back out. Oh, I know you're up for this one. The Ncuti calendar. Do you want the Ncuti calendar?
No, definitely not. No.
He's got
Green was saying, I really want to get on that.
He's got lovely poses. They're all very doctorish.
Ncuti wasn't the word I was using.
There's February.
Just sounded like it.
Oh, this doesn't look as...
Because of that.
I think you're going to save your money so far. So no, we're not getting the script editor, Doctor. We're not getting the Ncuti calendar. Have I got a better choice out there? Well, what about... You've got a choice of two here, lads. Bonnie Lanford's got a Melanie Bush mystery out, Death in the Stars, or you can go to the cinema and watch a performance of The Importance of Being Earnest with Ncuti Gatwa in a dress.
No.
There you
Next.
No.
I've got it. No. I just haven't read it yet. I've got the audio version as well. Of Death in the Stars, but I haven't heard that yet.
Right.
Have I got that one, or is that out yet?
I don't know. It's imminent at least. Okay, is anyone buying these yet in the thread? Let's just see if I can help you. I think there's something coming up that might grab you. What about the 10th Planet album, the soundtrack? It's coming.
That cover is insanely good. I would get it just for the cover.
Yeah,
but what's the point of having it? What's the point of having it on vinyl if you've already got it?
I know.
Vinyl is a collectible item. If you're into vinyl, it's you would understand if you're into vinyl.
Yeah, I'm no longer into vinyl anymore. I see the point of it.
The thing is, these are expensive, aren't they? I mean, when I look at the Celestial Toy Maker and beautiful cover, absolutely beautiful. Like the color of the records, the artwork, the pack is beautiful. I can see why you're saying it's another version of a collector's item, but the price is whoa.
How much is it? How much is it?
I couldn't find this one because all they advertised, Jeremy, is this will be released on National Record Day, so it's part of an exclusive for that.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the price anywhere, but I know the prices of the other
Probably
stuff.
50 quid
Yeah.
at least.
But we were saying earlier that the younger kids are actually getting into retro and albums and vinyl. So I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe this is hitting a market, or the dads will get it. But yes, it's a beautiful piece of artwork. But you're still getting the same soundtrack. This is what's so funny, because if you've already got it, it's like, right, okay,
Yeah.
we just but people are liking it. I love the cover of the 10th Planet soundtrack still. Unless it was available on CD, I won't be getting it.
It's different when the BBC first released Genesis of the Daleks on an LP, because we all rushed out and bought it. So it was the day,
exactly.
And when you're recording it on cassette.
But people, there is something about a record, and I remember when I used to buy records in the 80s and that, and sometimes you got a 12-inch and they were orange, or you got the weird colors and everything, and I used to love all that. But
Mankind, Mankind used to do. They did a blue vinyl, didn't they, with the Doctor Who theme in 1978?
Yeah,
they did a big 12-inch version of it.
And since I'm on an Aussie detox, I remember getting the Thompson Twins single, and I think that was the one that was orange, and it was in the shape of a guitar. It was a different shape. It wasn't circular. It was
I wish they dropped. Sorry.
So I was just going to say that there was a company, they did the Yorkie bar. Do you remember the Yorkie bar?
Yeah.
And they did an oblong disc 45 with the Yorkie bar theme.
Oh god. So if anybody's liking the sound of this one, obviously they give you a little background to obviously the plot. I think we all know that pretty well. Record Store Day is an annual event where thousands of independent record shops all over the world come together to celebrate their unique culture. The 10th Planet will only be available from participating stores, so see where your nearest is. A stunning designed monochrome outer cover featuring silver foil detail on the Cyberman houses 2 illustrated inner sleeves with Radio Times style billings for each episode. The 12-inch discs, 1 white, 1 silver, are on 150 gram vinyl. There you go. So I know. If money was no object.
If I was in the UK, I would get it for sure.
Okay. Well, there you go.
It'll probably cost twice the cost of the record to get it shipped to Australia.
Oh, I know that.
I just wish they drop some of these things on CD again.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If
you want, I'd probably be more into Big Finish if you could order things on disc so that you could physically collect it.
And the last on our merchandise Celestial Toy Box, and I'm going to ask you all, if you just had a bit of money, which one would you actually prioritize out of all these? There's a whole selection. I've picked the Dracula novel. There's a few novels out with some of the classic doctors. That's an example. Do you do that? I just don't buy that sort of stuff. If it's not canon, as Dwayne knows, if it's not on TV and it's not there I just don't really. The Savages animated the big event at the National Film. I think it's at the National Theatre. It's sold out. So again, there's certain things that are grabbing people. We've just had the season 7 BFI event. But out of all of these that I've shown you today, lads, which one would you be tempted to buy if there was one thing? Say I was Father Christmas and you're allowed to put one on the list.
The Savages, without a doubt.
Savages animated, Dwayne?
Are you talking about the event?
Any of these?
The event of the Savages or the Savages disc itself?
No, you can go for the Savages disc because it says sold out on the thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would definitely go the Savages first and foremost. But if I could have another one, I'd probably go 10th Planet.
Oh, I thought you wanted to shoot his calendar as a stocking filler.
Did you? Yeah, you're a funny man. You're a very funny man.
What about you, Dan?
It's a gag gift. I'd buy one and give it to Dwayne for Christmas just to rub it in.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
That's the consolation prize in the Ncuti Gatway calendar.
You know what I'd be rubbing in the calendar, don't you?
There'd be a burning and going on. There'd be a burning.
I wouldn't have to buy any toilet paper for a while. I know that. Anyway,
I'd actually rather go and have the actual Blu-ray of the Savages rather than go to the event, I think.
So
I wish they'd do the branding differently. I really don't like the way they do the Doctor Who like that.
I know. It's. I do think the longer this program goes on, the more they're diluting what the essence of it was, because they think they're being clever as. I do. Okay, we have before our big debate, we have our little mini debate warm up, and I call it the Vox Pops in the Vortex. So here we go.
ooh.
So the first one, lads, just to get you warmed up and arguing the toss and debating, is this one. So if I take it bigger here, this is from Jack. At this point, I really don't think season 3 is happening, and I hope they've told Ncuti and he gets to regenerate at the end of season 2. He's too big a talent, and who is holding him back? And I'm pretty peeved if I was him, waiting around and turning down work. Sympathy. Do you think he's on the money regarding where we are with the show? What are your thoughts?
I think season 3 is going to be 50-50, isn't it? And I don't think there'll be season 4.
I don't think there's going to be a season 3 at all. I think the waiting for announcements is just waiting to get the second series out because they want to promote that. But I don't think there's a series 3 happening at all. I think that everyone's, apart from Russell, is unhappy with Ncuti. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen from here, but it's definitely not going to be with Disney. Disney would have announced it by now if it was going to be with Disney.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a little show like Gladiators, they've just announced the other day, has been recommissioned for season 3. Now, Gladiators, they just announced it straight away. And you just think, so what's the delay here? Now, the delay here is possible. I'm just looking at the round of it. They're in partnership with Disney. So, of course, it's not just the BBC having an internal decision. However, if the BBC were waiting on Disney and Disney were just, prevaricating, the BBC could still say, but we're going ahead with season 3 nonetheless. And, the good news factor and all that stuff. And then they could commit to keeping Ncuti if that's what Jack Alexander's worried about. But the thing is, it's all up in the air. And as you say, Dwayne, it's funny because RTD in I think the SFX magazine and somewhere else said he's already written a lot of season 3. Now, so blooming what? But is he saying that because he's making a pitch for himself? Because if the show's tanking and somebody's walking as a co-partner, he needs to say to the BBC, who suddenly go, what the hell's going on? What do we do now? And he goes, season 3, darling, I've got it here. And they go, because I don't think the BBC really give a toss about Doctor Who in some ways. As long as some money comes in, and they'll go, oh, go on then, season 3, see how it goes. Can you just change that bit with Ncuti? And apart from that, bang. I don't know. I sometimes think the BBC are so hands off that they really couldn't give a toss.
Well, the BBC is not in a really strong financial position at the moment because they're $500 million in debt, and obviously they're trying to make some savings. They've cut back on the World Service. But I mean, why, if they're absolutely sure of themselves that they're going to produce season 3, why would they dismantle the TARDIS set? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, Jeremy, it's interesting. I know the different rumors and streams have said different things, but my understanding of what he said in the Doctor Who magazine, and of course I'm taking his word, which is sometimes dangerous, but he did say in a matter of days, if he gets what he wants in February, he said there would be just switching the lights back on the TARDIS set to make trailers. So in other words, his argument in the production notes was just that the TARDIS set is sat there creaking in the dark, waiting. So I didn't get the impression it was dissembled. I know we've all seen that Instagram text that as every streamer's talked about, where Bad Wolf is saying we've got space.
Yeah,
but
the problem is though, Brendan, is that those articles with RTD and things in those publications, they're usually a couple of months old.
I know, and I did check that out. And actually, he says in his production notes, Dan, he says, I'm writing this at the beginning of January.
All right.
So you know, so it sounds as though it's only a month out, so to speak, this time.
The thing is, though, is if Disney have the series and they pan over the ratings and they think, well, we'll let you know whether we decide to give you some more money to produce season 3 and 4. That's going to be much further down the line. You're talking about the end of 2025, 2026. So the next series could be, third series could be maybe 2027 at the earliest. So there's going to be a long wait whether they get Disney money or not for season 3.
And there will probably, I think Jack's onto something in a way that they may have to make a decision. And that's why there are rumours that the end of season 2, is there a regeneration possibility or not? The trouble is, the other rumour is that the end of season 2 links then to the spin-off. So then you think, now, there's a way that could be right on both counts, which is there's a kind of hint of a regeneration possibility. Like he could be in the TARDIS and we get that blooming Tinkerbell dust again, and then he takes off, and then because he's not available, they have to deal with the Sea Devils themselves in the 5-part spin-off. And then you've got that gap when we have either season 3 with a possible new Doctor who falls out the TARDIS like John Pertwee did in Spearhead, or he falls out again and the Tinkerbell dust goes away again.
Or he steps on a landmine and David Tennant has to turn up.
I think the end of season 2 is not quite a regeneration. He just says, I'm going for therapy. And then after the therapy, he lands back and he's an Ethiopian looking man. That's, I think, what will happen. Sorry,
It's probably got a spare room at Donna Noble's house. So it's got David
Tennant. Oh,
there
I'm sure she'll have a tent in the garden. Yeah,
we talk a lot about Disney's involvement, but
yeah,
it's also I also believe the BBC hasn't decided yet whether they're going to allow Bad Wolf to continue to produce Doctor Who. They may be looking for another production company. That is also a possibility, or they may want to sell off the rights. Like, because I'm sensing this is a similar feeling, to the end of season 26 classic era and the early years of the 90s when none of us knew exactly what was going on. And we, I always thought as a kid, it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. And that's what we're starting to think now. It's gonna come back. But I'm feeling the same kind of vibes that I don't think it is destined to come back at the moment because deals haven't been made yet. So it's still way up in the air, I think.
If season 1 had been massively successful, Disney would have gone straight in with a 4-year contract straight away.
Yep.
For 4-year funding.
Absolutely.
At least.
Because they would have wanted to snatch up the streaming rights instantly.
Yeah, because the loose ends don't work here, do they? And Jack's right on one of his theories there about, if you like Ncuti as a talent, you need to pin him down. Remember what RTD said at the beginning of all this? He said, oh my God, we're so lucky to have him. We grabbed him before anybody else grabbed him, before he becomes James Bond, and all that blather. So why is there not the panic to hold on to him now when nobody has actually sealed a deal? Now, of course,
did someone say Ncuti was going to be James Bond?
Well, he said
RTD said that.
Yeah, RTD was fantasizing. He didn't realize he was awake and he was being interviewed. And and you went, oh, sorry.
This was all the way back at the beginning. I remember this.
Yeah, he was getting interviewed and he thought he was talking to his teddy. But anyway, there you go. And it was seen by everybody. David Harding, RTD needs to say to the fans as well. If you're a Doctor Who fan who has been disappointed by RTD2, there's a few of us, and he starts saying there will not be series 3, there will be a huge viewer exodus. The exit door's there. I can see it. Jeremy is kind of holding it open for me. He's telling me the future's great. He's like the White Guardian in Enlightenment. He's going, actually, don't watch Doctor Who. The future's great.
You'd think that Jane Tranter and Julie Gardner would have. They'd have to have mates on the inside. They'd be like, "Come on, sell us the rights. We'll give you $10 for it." Trying to get a garage sale.
It's such a mess. It's such a mess because, as you know, when he was offered the 3 specials, then that was the original thing he thought. he said he'd only come back if Bad Wolf produced it. So of course it's mates here. So it's a mess. If the BBC are having question marks about Ncuti or RTD sticking to the Ncuti choice, you know, either or, bit like Chris Chibnall would have with Jodie, I reckon. You've then got a problem, which is how do you unravel this? Because Bad Wolf and RTD are the same. And it's a shame, actually, because Bad Wolf, before they got Doctor Who, I saw their Discovery of Witches and I thought, brilliant production values. Of course, it was a proper writer. It was a trilogy that they were actually adapting. And therefore, because it was a proper writer's work, there were good stories. And all they had to do was add their budget and production values to it. The snag this time is you haven't got a proper writer and you've then put the production values on it and it doesn't match. That's been the problem for poor Bad Wolf in that way.
Could you imagine RTD doing a JNT and he's like rings up Ncuti and says, "Good news, Doctor Who's coming back, but not with you."
Yes, not with. Oh, yeah. Well, it happened once. It can happen again. Gatwa is the Bonnie Lanford of modern Who, says Adrian Sherlock. Chosen because the producer was a fan, not for being a good choice. I do think in the future we're going to get lots of questions about how the audition process went. I'm always confused why the media gets away with this kind of nonsense. They call it the way they do auditions and all that stuff. Sorry, we have to have everything anonymized. And on top of that, and I did once, when I went for a job and I didn't get it, I was pushed by one of my friends to ask for the notes. And I said, can you do that? Yes, you can. And I asked for the notes because we suspected that it was an inside job and I was never going to get it. And I just wanted to embarrass the people. And yeah, in outside industry, there's lots of things where it has to be accountable. Why is it in the media? RTD says, oh, the audition was just amazing. We'd already decided on somebody else. And then suddenly Ncuti walked in and I just fell in love. You know, where's the notes? Where's the process? Because in the end, it just seems to be this, that, and the other. And as I was saying the other day, John Barrowman is struggling to get work, but that's because he's on the outer. But when you're on the inner, oh my God, are you on the inner? And I can't see. Yeah, go on.
Can I just change my mind? I want a series 3 now, based on Boomer Doug's last comment. I want. Could you bring that up?
I'll have a look. Where is it? There it is. Yeah.
I want a series 3 now. I want to see him doing that tap dance down Rundle Mall. Please.
He'll be in his blooming undies. I mean, he mentioned.
Yeah, last week he wasn't even dressed.
So Boomer Doug and his budgie smugglers going down Rundle Mall in maybe the wetsuit will help. I hope the Sea Devil mask slips and covers your budgie smugglers.
Bring it on, series 3. Let's go.
Well, there you go. I should have pressed the toxic alarm for that one. So yes, there you go. Thanks, Jack, for that one. And my second one before we move to the big one. William Who says, and I know he's got his own stream, episode 6 is rumored to be Eurovision themed. Oh, for God's sake. No. Saturday the 12th of April. That's the other thing, because I'm going to show you what the writer slipped and said it's probably April and May the season 2's out. So a lot of people are now guessing. Saturday the 12th of April start date would allow episode 6 to air on the Eurovision finale night, so it will probably be then, or the week after on the 19th, if they start with a double bill again. Why are we linking? And the trouble is, I understand why he's saying this, because last year, Space Babies and Devil's Cord, is this free? The fact that we think linking with the Eurovision is any good idea is beyond me.
Just think 20 years ago, we're almost, as fans, talking about what's this Bad Wolf reference going on in every episode. That was pretty exciting, pretty interesting. Now we're wondering whether something's Eurovision themed and when the date that it's going to drop. It's not. A lot has changed in 20 years.
A lot has changed, and this is, you see, this is the other thing, because when I did my saloon last Sunday night, when you look at his Doctor Who magazine details, he does say songs plural. Now we've got 8 episodes, and he says there are monsters, robots, blah, 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 and then he says songs. And I thought, oh, we've got room for more than one song, have we? And you know, he was saying to Murray Gold at that concert, we could do an instrumental program. We could do this. We could do that. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's fine if you're into Eurovision. I mean, I was many years ago, a long time ago, but I'm not into Eurovision now anymore. So even that doesn't appeal to me.
What happened to variety, though? I mean, if Eurovision's on that night,
Yeah.
why don't you want your episode of something else to be a serious drama, and then you have some? You know, they used to have a balanced schedule. Now it seems to be they're going, well, if it's the Eurovision, we'll have Doctor Who doing Eurovision Light. Why?
Well, they know there's going to be Eurovision parties waiting for Eurovision to start. So I suppose this particular episode will get them all in the mood as a warm-up.
What you're saying, Jeremy, is the only way you should watch season 2 Doctor Who is if you've had a lot to drink. That's what you're saying.
Yes. I don't even think that helps, to be honest.
No, because Space Babies would then look too, I don't know. Raymond Williams, Eurovision is all LGBTQ. Some countries censored the British Act last year. Imagine, it should have been censored anyway, but that's why RTD loves it. The man is obsessed with the trans movement. See how long that lasts. Crimpling. But we've had a Eurovision story, Bang Bang and Boom, a 7th Doctor story on Big Finish, but don't tie it together. That's why
that was fantastic. That was how you do that kind of story, right?
Dan, when Dwayne's not here next week, that's another topic.
Any week he's going to have a life again. And then
he
can just go nuts.
Dwayne, have a life now and again. Just, Paul Holgate. It made me laugh on Gladiators last week when one of the female contenders looked more like a bloke than some of the male contenders. The state of the world we live in. Well, it takes all sorts. I think that's all I'll say. That's all I know. And another poll, Eurovision themed Doctor Who, so it'll be shallow, glitzy, light entertainment, seems par for the course for modern Who. Paul, remember, I've used it in my saloons a few times. Remember that the Bad Wolf team said that 80s Who struggled as being silly, low entertainment pastiche. And what you seem to be listing is they've made it again. Oh, irony of ironies. They can't see it, can they?
One of the Patrick Charlton stories in TV comic in the 1960s, I think, had a sort of Eurovision type theme to it. Or there was some sort of pop band or something in it. I must dig it out and have a look at it again.
You're getting me worried now. You're getting me worried. You're making it sound as though it's trendy. So that's just so we know where we are, because I know we all go to bed looking at this. No, we don't. If William Who's right and gets their timing right, and it's episode 6, that's the one that Juno Dawson's written. I'll just say that one more time. That if William Who is right, the Juno Dawson episode, which is episode 6, would be the Eurovision themed one. Now, this is all speculation, but this is not sounding good. So there you go. That's me not making you feel any better with how Vox pops in the vortex. Now that was warming you up, because this is when I'm going to get tasty, lads. That was just the warm-up act. So can I just say this item I call get it off your chest. I mean, I'm very blunt and literal nowadays. Get it off your chest. So are you ready? Never mind ups and downs of the time rotor. This is Doctor Who fans going, I have to say this now, and I'm going to vent. You know, like you sometimes have to, it's good therapy. You know, you scream at the sea, you shout into the wind. This is the moment. Are you ready, folks? Get ready. Get it off your chest. I don't think Nicola Bryant wanted to get off his chest, but anyway. So here we go. Get it off your chest.
The feeling may have been mutual.
Do you know all these untold stories of the moments that Mr. Connery and Miss Bryant met and said, oh, shall we rehearse that scene a little bit more? Yeah, I know. Well, Yeah. So get it off your chest. Here we go. Now this is my main item, folks. Now, yes, there he is. He's been Instagramming. Now I'm not going to go through all of what he said. He mentions April and May, but actually it's this bit. My question is, lads, does anybody who writes for Doctor Who now actually understand what blooming Doctor Who is? So if I show you, oh, he's dead pleased he's got the job, whatever. If you're pleased, go to that bulky paragraph. It's this again. I've always loved the show. I've been watching since I was 10. It's about a displaced refugee from a war-torn planet who arrives on Earth with a screwdriver, not a gun or a shield, calls himself the Doctor, like so many good immigrants I know. A title that's fundamentally about alleviating pain and suffering. His main superpower is empathy. The Doctor feels so much he needs 2 hearts just to process everything. And there are 15 versions of him. To quote Walter Whitman, the Doctor contains multitudes. He's always been always been so inclusive and welcoming. And I have to say, lads, no, that is not what the Doctor Who was. They've rewritten the whole bloody thing. And do these people understand what the Doctor is? Because they're rewriting, they're challenging, they're changing the show. I would argue now, my verbs then get strong, like they're ambushing the show, they're capturing the show, they are just changing it to what they want. And RTD is the gaffer. This is when he says no. But of course, he leans into this. When I read that, I thought, Jodie Whittaker said something similar, she talked about, they're finding themselves and all the rest of it. They don't get the show. Sorry, lads, I'm getting this off my, I'm letting it off my chest.
I have to agree with you, Brendan. They just absolutely have no idea about the concept of the show. And certainly I watched the first episode. He couldn't possibly watch the first episode. Otherwise, if he had, he would have got it straight away. And bringing all this about immigrants, refugees into the equation is absolute nonsense. And they know it's nonsense.
He was a wanderer in the 4th dimension, is what William Hartnell said. A wanderer, an outsider. I think the Patrick Troughton Doctor said he was a pariah. That's why we got into it. He wasn't like everybody else in school. He was the outsider. He was a bit different. This immigrant thing is just, it's just, for God's sake, why are we doing this? Because that's going to get people's backs up. Because it clearly is laying into a political landscape which is not settled. And why? It's Doctor Who. Can we leave it alone? I started our show today saying we love escapism. We love to be distracted. That's why we love the program. And to be honest, when you listen to this bloke, and I'm not challenging his CV, what I am challenging is, do you know what the hell this program is?
He obviously doesn't. And that's not a good sign, because if he's going to write something that's completely way out or completely different to this program, then it's not Doctor Who. Couldn't possibly be Doctor Who.
What do you think, Duane? I mean, am I being unfair?
The first thing that got me was about where he says that the show's about a displaced refugee from a war-torn planet who arrives on Earth with a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Well, before that, he says he's been watching since he was 10. How old does he look there? About 30? So that means he'd be watching from the Eccleston era. My question is, has he ever seen Doctor Who earlier than that? I don't think he has seen anything other than New Who, which there are far deeper roots to Doctor Who than the series we got in 2005.
Yeah. That
was only a part of the Doctor's history. He's talking about a part of the Doctor's history, not the whole history. So I don't think he knows exactly what he's talking about. He's got an idea of a childhood memory of the Eccleston era by the sound of that, and has been fed a few things by RTD to sort of make it sound current day, which he's a couple of years behind now. You could see how fast things have shifted in this last few weeks. By the time his episode comes out, the world is going to be a very different place to when he actually wrote the episode. So it'd be interesting to see how it turns out.
Isn't it fascinating, Dan, that as Duane is saying, RTD's the gaffer. He selects the writers. He's the god now. And he has picked writers, it seems, who agree with his version of what the Doctor is from his era, nothing before. But RTD is the one who can plunder the classic Who and do what the hell he wants to it and change it to look like the new Who. I'll say the War Games in colour. I'll say Capaldi's regeneration. Or so, you know, when with the first Doctor, and when you had that episode, you had the Tinkerbell dust. Everything has to look like the RTD era. He has taken ownership of the whole brand. And then when a writer is selected, they say, I know that the Doctor's all about what New Who is. RTD's the genius. And you're thinking, we've just done an item tonight on the producers before RTD. And I'm sorry, but I think, as you're saying, Dwayne, it's missing the point of what he was before New Who. And as we both said, Dwayne, before the show started, that New Who is the law of diminishing returns. It doesn't look as exciting as it did at the time. And therefore, to say that the Doctor is everything from that era is really diminishing the Doctor and diminishing the show's potential. What do you reckon, Dan?
I think unfortunately these guys are they've drunk the Kool-Aid and they are just reiterating the stuff that they're hearing, but in the circles that they're traveling in. But unfortunately, I think the other issue here is what we're seeing in a lot of dramas is these young writers are effectively self-inserting themselves into the characters, and you know, it's that whole issue of I want to self-insert and identify as the main character, the protagonist, and I'm going to apply all my attributes and values and everything to the character, or replace the character, and you end up with quite a shallow sort of it isn't the Doctor.
And it will age, as Dwayne has said, it will age. New Who will age much more than Classic Who has. And you can go back to Classic Who, and because it does what it says on the tin, you can just enjoy it. New Who, when you watch certain episodes, you're going, oh, that's aged badly. That doesn't work. And this immigration debate, whatever side you're on, I'm not wading into it. But the point is, it's not a settled issue as per usual. And when it's not a settled issue, I really would prefer Doctor Who not to wade into it on one side, particularly. And then when somebody comes in and says, I see the Doctor as an immigrant, as a refugee, and I'm going, well, you clearly don't understand the program I've invested in all these years. Yeah. And on top of that, I don't think Sarah Jane Smith, as an example, would say that the Doctor was an empath. The Doctor wasn't an empath. The Doctor didn't want unfairness. The Doctor didn't want injustice. But there was no way when he saw, Scarman's brother on the floor, was he showing any empathy.
Well, look what he tried to knock someone off in An Unearthly Child.
Yeah, he's incredibly selfish quite often. And, Pertwee's Doctor's pretty much an aristocrat. So,
yeah, so go on, Jeremy.
I just say, I think there's some sort of ambiguity over the first Doctor when he picked up the rock. Yeah. So the viewers are in two minds as to whether that was the case, but it's possible. I don't know.
Remember when I did the Planet of the Daleks review, I also said everyone talks about that rock with An Unearthly Child, but what about when John Pertwee's Doctor picked up? Was it a club and he was about to attack? Was it Latep? I mean, at the Plane of Stones.
Well, that's because he was just protecting his patch.
Yes,
Latep was eyeing off his favorite companion.
There he is. He was gonna kill the Spyrodon. That's what he was gonna do. Westler.
Well, the Doctor said, William Hartnell, he said, the first Doctor, he said, I never take life unless my own is immediately threatened.
Yeah, well, he
jumped the Dalek invasion.
I still don't know why the Spyrodons weren't cancelled for wearing furs. I mean, what is the being that the Spyrodons cut the fur off
in season 2,
so that they could walk around naked?
In season 2, episode 2, you'll see Ncuti with he lands on Spyrodon just to get the latest outfit, and he gets some fur undies. And Boomer Doug is going to buy that merchandise. Apparently, that's what I've heard. So
I thought you'd be upset, Brendan, because he's
And dance down run the wall.
clearly slaughtered some Muppets there.
well, I know I could have made a few Muppets out of that. So I'm just going to show everybody this one paragraph again. And can everybody on the panel just tell me while I go big screen, which bits you go, Ron, incorrect, computer says no. So I've always loved the show, right? Well, that's good. I've been watching since I was 10. It's about a displaced refugee. I mean,
Wrong.
No, he displaced himself.
Never been a refugee.
He displaced himself, didn't he? And
He ran away.
And
Right.
if you really want to get boringly political, let's say we all know the refugee definition. And I'm sorry, but he's seeking refuge from what? Boredom? They're all civil servants. That the Gallifreyans are just boring. That's not a refugee. That's an economic migrant, I may say, where you just want a better life, if you don't mind. It's about a displaced refugee from a war-torn planet. No, it wasn't in Classic Who. In fact, it was Boring, who arrives on Earth with a screwdriver. I don't think he did arrive as William Hartnell with a screwdriver, did he, lads?
No, the sonic screwdriver was introduced in Fury from the Deep. That was the first time we
Exactement.
saw it. That's the first time we saw it.
I mean, Jeremy, what does this do to you as a Doctor Who fan when you hear somebody's going to be writing for your show who hasn't got a bloody clue?
It makes me absolutely despair. It really does. I mean,
That's
any producer would say to the writers, if you're going to send something on Twitter, let me see it before you send it out, so we can do any corrections in the production office. But now it seems that these writers just say, I'm going to put anything I want on Twitter, and if it upsets people, so be it. You know,
I mean, how wrong can you get? Refugee.
The assumption that these people are refugees that come here to this country or other countries is totally wrong. They're not necessarily refugees. They could be illegal immigrants that have decided to bypass the system of migration because they knew that they couldn't get in the first place. So it doesn't hold water.
They're using a politically triggering word completely incorrectly, because number one, the Doctor wasn't a refugee. He wasn't even a migrant. He didn't have a visa. He didn't request when he landed on Earth a visa. He didn't say, please, I need to stay here. In fact, I remember the third Doctor saying, I want to get off here. Honestly, he's the opposite of a refugee, because he said, I'm bored here and I want to get away.
He's a time traveler.
Honestly, and this really is stirring me up. Did you notice? He's a displaced refugee. No. War-torn planet. No. He arrives on Earth with a screwdriver. No. Not a gun or a shield. He calls himself the Doctor. Well, as you know, over the years, we've messed around with that, actually. Like so many good immigrants. I really don't understand what the hell's going on there. I didn't know immigrants arrive in the country calling themselves bloody doctors. What is that about? I mean, I was an immigrant to Australia. I was never a doctor. I know, a title that's fundamentally about alleviating pain and suffering. His main superpower, superpower and Doctor Who, you've got the wrong show. Superpower. This language tells me that the dialogue, the content, the plot, the characterization is going to be shit.
Yeah, because it's got all the same hallmarks as why, you know, all these other franchises have gone the same way with you know, this egocentric sort of identity stuff. I mean, it's got nothing to do with refugees. It's just, but also, could you imagine like any of the good Doctor Who writers talking like this? It has no bearing on anything.
Nah. Now, I've obviously, sorry, Jeremy, I've just stirred up the thread, obviously. So, Simon Anthony, who obviously is the contrarian, this description is not all this potential Doctor will be, just part of it. Let's see what else he gives us. I know you're trying to be fair, Simon, but I'm sorry. Come on, you're a Doctor Who fan, and you know for a fact that's a load of baloney that's been written there by somebody who ain't got a clue. And therefore, people are maybe quite right to start asking, did you get it on merit or did you get it for some other reason? Because are you a science fiction writer? Well, none of them are. Second question, are you good writers? Do you understand the program you're writing for? Well, no. Dwayne, am I being outrageously unfair?
Possibly, but it's a lot of fun for me to watch.
Yes.
The thing that really stands out to me is towards the end there, where he talks about empathy, and the Doctor's got two hearts because he feels all this empathy. No, the Doctor's got two hearts because he's an alien from another planet. Yeah. Simple as that. It's a science fiction concept.
And he's a selfish bugger.
The other thing is, I'm sick of hearing the Doctor referred to as they. Mm-hmm. The only time we're going to get they is when there are different incarnations of the Doctor together in the same room. Then you can call them they if you're referring to them all.
Yeah.
But if you're just referring to the one individual, it's him or her. If you're going to go down the route of a female Doctor, but not they. I'm sick of hearing that. That one really irritates the crap out of me.
Yeah. So this is why I call it the get it off your chest item, because I saw that and I thought, look. I've delicately danced around the selection of some of these writers because we don't know yet what they've written. But when he writes that, you think, oh my God, I mean, is this going to be baby Doctor Who, Superman Doctor Who, model Doctor Who? Dear me, Raymond Williams, these new writers don't know anything about the show. They don't care. They are hired to be a tick box and they know it. They then write a story to please RTD. Yes, I have to say, I will play the ball, not the man. And my issue here is they were appointed and they got a job. Well done. It's the person who gave them the job I am going to really question here, because he's supposed to be the custodian of Doctor Who. I'm a super fan, don't you know? All right, you prove it, mate, because what I've just seen written there is a load of twaddle, absolute twaddle. Paul, there's a hell of a difference between a fictional character arriving on Earth in a time machine and the real-life tragedies of drowned children being washed ashore on a daily basis. Paul, exactly. And I think it's a very sensitive issue to come wading in such a clunky way, because Doctor Who nowadays, it'll be written in a clunky way. In 45 minutes, let's do the refugee crisis. No, let's not, because you can't do it justice. Back off, RTD. And if you want to do the refugee crisis, go and do another years and years. He's already done it. I thought I'm sorry, I'm going to make my argument again. Doctor Who is about escapism, not boring us rigid with what's happening on our noses on the news every blooming night. Adrian Sherlock, the 9th Doctor had a homemade bomb and a chemical weapon in his first episode. But it was the Autons and Nestine and consciousness, wasn't it? I'm trying to think. Do you know what, Adrian? You're asking me to look at New Who again, and I did review Rose in one of our streams, but bang, it's so memorable.
You know, I've seen so many executive orders signed in the last couple of weeks. I'm just about ready to see Donald going, right, this will be a good one. Yep, and he holds it up and goes, from now on, Doctor Who shall be an entertaining program that's based on classic Doctor Who and nothing else. Thank you very much. Done.
I was waiting for, we're going to buy Doctor Who and we're going to make it great again.
You know what? I think he's going for it's a shame Roy Castle's not here, or Norris McWhirter, because I do think he's going for the Guinness Book of Records number of executive orders. And yes, yes, another time he goes, and Rent-A-Go should come back. I've got another executive order that Why Don't You should never be seen again because it was crap. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, honestly. And do you know what, Dwayne? The executive order I want to see from Donald Trump is that Big Finish is not canon. That's the one. That's the one.
That is outrageous.
You don't need a presidential order to do that.
I'm going to do, actually, I love doing my little items. I'm going to do Brendan's executive orders on Doctor Who. I feel like a little dictator sometimes. I think I'm up for it.
Could have a
That
barista
would be a
segment.
good insert. That would.
Yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? Brendan's executive orders, and you could all say, boring, go away. No, we're ignoring you like everybody else. Adrian, these newcomers are full of nonsense. I know, and it is only speculation. The trouble is, once you watch the episode, and if it confirms what we were thinking, then what do we do? And I actually really, honestly don't want to be proven right. I don't. I know some streamers out there almost want to be proven right. I'd like it to be good Doctor Who, but you know when you thought the hunch is, it's not going to be. Tell me. The other thing about that Instagram is, I know he's not allowed to tell you about the episode, but RTD could have said, we've got some amazing stories coming up. We've got a storyline about so-and-so. I mean, they always used to do that. You know, I knew, and I'll come to season 19 in a minute. So you always got a taste of things that were coming up. Anthony Parkinson, the DEI era is over in America. Bad Wolf and Doctor Who are, ironically, stuck in the past. Timey-wimey. Adrian, artificially diving people into skin color and other groups is just simple-minded and insulting. It's reductive, is the argument. That's an adjective I've never used, but actually it's starting to become useful. It's reductive. Azira Room says, hiya, Brian. He's more of a nomad. Yeah, he's a pariah. He's an outsider. He's a wanderer. He's a nomad. That's got nothing to do with needing refuge or something or seeking asylum. And I don't think
He's
it's
a citizen of the universe.
Yeah,
but the real Doctor Who is sat at home with Donna Noble. That's
Yeah,
the
I mean-
original. You know,
yeah.
That's a fate worse than death.
That's a satire on all the migrants in the hotels. I think that's what RTD's doing there. That they're in luxury all there. Yeah,
you see that hotel in Joy to the World. It wouldn't be able to get in it because it would be full because the government would do it to commandeer it.
yeah. Mind you, yeah. They normally pick better hotels because the wallpaper was rubbish, wasn't it? I mean, and
Well, they have picked some crummy hotels in London as well. 'Cause they're a bit short. They're not all holiday inns and whatever.
yes, they're not all manners. Modern Who just wants to hit people over the head with clumsy, ill-thought-out political and social messaging, a far cry from the classic series. How can I not disagree? I can't disagree. Anthony Green, hello. Eccleston played the Doctor as a battle-hardened survivor of war. That's how it was done then, but there was a few years before, wasn't there? He wasn't a refugee, and the character was developed fairly well from there until the results of the Time War. And then where does the War Doctor fit in? Because the War Doctor wasn't a refugee either. The War Doctor was warlike. It's ironic, isn't it, to say the War Doctor, if he is one of the doctors, while all the other doctors are refugees, he's the one who started it. I mean, it's like, well, you can't run away from what you're totally enjoying.
It would be interesting to see if this writer has actually seen the classic series from day one.
Oh no! He went no. Do you think these people have invested time in the program? No, they just want to ambush it and capture it and impose themselves on it. I do think that's what's happening now, and I've resisted saying this up to about this point. That I do think people are now starting to impose themselves onto the show rather than say, "I respect what the show is."
They're imposing their own politics and ideology and agenda.
Yeah, which is that means it's all ego and it's all very about them and it's not about the show. And RTD unfortunately seems to be appointing people who reflect himself in the mirror.
Yeah, but they actually train writers though, because they say your text has got to say something. It's got to speak to something, and I don't think that's true necessarily.
And by the way, when you mark your own homework, you also talk a lot of crap. So in that last bit of the paragraph, when he's about this amazing doctor that I've never seen on TV, he says, the doctor contains multitudes. He's always been there, always been so inclusive and welcoming. What, you mean that Dot and Bubble episode when he was going to reward the white supremacists with their own colony? Oh, yeah, that's so inclusive that. They don't even know when they're writing crap. So
it's just virtue signaling, hitting all those buttons.
It is. And so that was the part of the quote in red you can see when he says the new series drops in April and May. And that's why William Who and everybody's guessing that it'll be somewhere in April. We'll get the first episode. Then it'll coincide with the Eurovision, blah, blah, blah. And he says before that, look at that. I have to stay stum. It's a shame you didn't. Because you've said too much. And I now am judging you. I really am. Okay, then. Shall I cheer you up a bit, lads? Here?
Please.
Yeah.
Season 19, a retrospective. I mean, if I said season 19 to you, is it warm in the cockles of your heart? What is it about season 19, and why was it so? Why do we not wish that the next season felt like season 19? What's RTD missing here?
RTD.
Well, no, I'm just saying. What was good about season 19, if that's what you're going to say, and what would you like to have been replicated in the next season from this? You know, what could we learn from this?
Return of all monsters.
Would you do that again? The Cybermen, you've got.
I don't think the producers got much choice, because I think if you were bringing the show back, you've got to put all your eggs in one basket. It's a risk, but I'd do it. And then you say, well, but as long as the scripts are good, as long as the writing is good. But unfortunately, I think Russell T Davies has veered off to a tangent with this new series. And whether Doctor Who will ever be like how it used to be or not is a very big question ever again.
You can see from even the pictures the budget constraints, but the imagination was not constrained. And actually, if you do look at season 19, Dwayne, you had the Pteroleptals new, the Mara new, you had a historical, you had the Plasmatrons, or whatever you call them in Time Flight. You had a fair lot of new monsters, Adeobankans, and you had the Master. So you had a bit of old and a bit of new, and you had a new TARDIS crew. It had a sense of youth. I mean, I could see you like the idea of season 19 again. I mean, what is it that couldn't RTD do something like this and make it successful?
It doesn't have an Edric.
I was thinking of Castrovalva and some of the things that Peter Davison does in the first couple of episodes, where he's paying respects to the past, but they're not dwelling on it or trying to rewrite it. They're just continuing to move forward. Like Davison does his Hartnell impression, and he does his Troughton impression, and it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy as a fan watching that.
Yeah.
Because he's sort of jumping back into his former personalities. But it doesn't try and rewrite anything. It's just moving forward. It's got interesting stories set in all different locations, not like the whole of season 1 of New Who in 2005 was all pretty much set on Earth, or close to it. They were going to interesting places. I really liked The Visitation at the time. That was probably my favorite at the time. But now I like things like Kinder, get you thinking, as well. And I really like Black Orchid too. So I like that period stuff as well. So there's heaps and heaps to like throughout that. The only one I haven't mentioned is Fort of Doomsday, which is the most recent one I watched. I just watched that whole thing in the last couple of weeks, actually. And I really enjoyed that too. Even though you can tell that's the first one they filmed, so they're all fresh and still finding their feet. But it's very enjoyable stuff too.
The thing is, it has the variety there. I mean, you've mentioned The Visitation. Of course, everybody will say one of the highlights was, of course, Earthshock. So if you say Earthshock and The Visitation were classic Who to me, they were classic Doctor Who stories, and that's why I will still go back to The Visitation and Earthshock, and you think, this is just Doctor Who. Then, of course, you do have the differences, because the Kinder one, as I've said, and we've got a review coming up on the Kinder soon. It didn't grab me at the time, because of course I was wanting monsters, and I wasn't wanting psychology and all that stuff. But of course, it does feed back better now. And we've got another show where me and Hugh talk about the representation of mental health in Doctor Who, and obviously Kinder plays a part with Hindle. etc. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Kaz Travelva, of course, was part of the Master trilogy and was exciting in that way, and a regeneration and a full regeneration. Like you said, you saw it dragged out a bit, and the Zero Room, we got a new concept as well. I mean, Doctor Who wasn't standing still. They added a new little touch. I still, one of my favorite cliffhangers, apart from seeing the Cybermen part 1, was that moment when they were going to face the Big Bang, and they didn't know, Tegan and Nyssa, what that would happen when they press the button. And I really liked that bit, you know. Dan, your thoughts on season 19 and whether we should copy some of this now, you know, what they did?
Oh, look, I mean, again, I think I said it a few weeks back. Each season feels like its own special little bundle. Each season has its own feel, and you know, season 19, it actually has a nice. It is a very fresh flow, considering, you know, when you compare it to season 18 and getting away from Tom. But yeah, I like the way season 19 ramps up into Earthshock and Time Flight.
Well, Crimpling de Bloom's telling me off. I don't want to see Ncuti floating in space throwing his balls at a spaceship. But yeah, I know. The lessons they will learn will be very different from the past. Paul, I love season 19. Some really clever written episodes and some wonderful performances. The Visitation is a standout story for me. I mean, it's kind of a historic, you know, it's loosely a historical in the way that Doctor Who learned to do, like the Time Warriors, like a historical. But,
why does the robot look like it came out of Thriller?
I know, because it's the 80s, of course. But I know, but I know the Visitation.
The actor who played Richard Mace is so entertaining. I've always loved
Michael
Robbins
Robbins
in that.
Michael, yeah.
Didn't he just pass away only recently?
No, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago, was it? Must be someone else I'm thinking.
He was good voice, and it was a lovely. I mean, God, they had 3 TARDIS crew, and they were all in action. They weren't flaking around like Nyssa and Kinder, so they were all doing stuff. And then on top, you had this brilliant Highwayman character, and Eric Serra had managed to give them all stuff to do. Yes, Adric was the classic companion who fell over and did his ankle in. Oh, my God. But Nyssa had the moment with the android in the TARDIS, a bit of action there. She knew how to plug it in and blow it up. So she had a bit of action. The bit I didn't like about that period of Doctor Who was they started playing around with anyone can drive the TARDIS. Remember the moment in the Visitation when... And I'm like, no. We can't have Nyssa and Adric and so and so and so and so. They press a button and they go, oh. And then you had that moment when the 5th Doctor said, this might be the last time I see the TARDIS. And you think, no.
Yeah, the whole Tegan and Nyssa flying, you know, dematerializing the TARDIS and all that. I know they tried to explain it away with Adric in his little bondage thing with the Master.
I want to stay here. But I know. I wonder if they needed. Are you going to ask him these questions when you see Matthew Waterhouse doing? Are you going to ask him about the bondage scene with Anthony Ainley?
Yeah, for sure.
You're going to. But no, I mean, because yeah, that strange web. But
he masters block transfer computation pretty quickly, doesn't it? It's like when you fall off the radio telescope and then he's straight into doing block transfer computation for the Master.
He must have been a bore, Adric. He deserved to die, because when you're reading his he's supposed to be a teenage lad, and when you're reading his mind, all you saw was all that crap. I mean, I don't think you'd want to be inside a teenage lad's mind with all the transfer. You know what I mean? It was like, it's not the best mind to use. I would say to the Master gently, you need a better mind than a teenage lad's mind. Was he that good? Simon Anthony, I want to see some plot where the monsters have interacted with each other, like the Movellans and Daleks or Cybermen. What, you want 2 lots of monsters in one story? RTD wants you to have gods. he doesn't even want you to have monsters. Let's be honest. I mean, that slug was so slow. Talk about snail's pace. I mean, in Dot and Bubble, they hardly moved. I mean, you'd just walk away. I mean, a woman with a walking stick or somebody in a motor scooter from Benidorm would get away from them. They were useless. Honestly, I was so scared. Geraint, I honestly thought at the time that season 19 was going to be the last. I'm trying to remember. I remember being very happy with Castrovalva. Oh, I wasn't, Geraint. You know that scene where the doctor keeps running past the washerwomen? And I was thinking, I felt as I was in the laundrette. It's like he keeps going past these people washing. And then, oh, look at this. What was it? That big freeze. And the freeze gave away.
Ever notice there's never any water in the Zero cabinet when they're washing? They're just shaking no water. That always distracted me. That's it.
And of course,
I still look at all those quality actors they had in Castrovalva, and then they dress them up in bloody bonnets and see-through hats and.
Well, do you know, I can't live. When I finish this stream, and of course I've got to prepare for me and Rachel tonight, but I need to think of another segment now because I've just realised in Castrovalva wasn't the War Chief Master in it?
Yeah.
No. Castrovalva? No.
The actor.
That was Derek Waring. Edward Brayshaw played the war chief in the War Games.
He did,
wasn't
but
in it.
I know it looked similar. You know what I mean?
It was actor Derek Waring.
I was getting worried then because I thought you can't have the Master there and then there's the War Chief. Yeah. I was getting a bit worried.
I thought you were just making the point that the Master is the War Chief.
Well, you know me, I'm lazy sometimes.
Here's a question for you. Edward Brayshaw did appear in another Doctor Who episode. Which one was it?
The Revolution one, the French Revolution one.
Yeah, Reign of Terror.
Reign of Terror, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, Dwayne, you need a week off because David agrees with you. And so does Doctor Who Before and Beyond, and we can't have this. So
everyone just keeps writing Dwayne's right.
Dwayne's right. They're all his friends. I mean,
Big Finish is canon. Big Finish is canon. I just keep saying it. Big Finish.
It just got sirens of audio. Just in the audience.
I'm just going to hold on. I'm just writing an executive order. Dwayne is not detox canon.
You got to hold up the folder and show the signature. Isn't that a good one? That's a good one, isn't it?
I've just written it. Yeah, here we go. Earthshock was the most exciting story I ever saw. That's quite a big one. It was an exciting cliffhanger.
Whatever, or up until that point?
He does say ever.
Well, it's good to see the Cybermen coming back. I mean,
it was big. It was big, wasn't it? Farsight.
It's still a lot more fun than a lot of the modern Cybermen stories, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of action. I mean, that's what you want as a Doctor Who fan. You want action. Sometimes you wait so long for the monster to arrive, and then but there's plenty of action. And then
it ends in a big bang. What can you ask for?
And then of course you've got that. There's another cliffhanger when you see lots of Cybermen approaching. So you had all that, and of course you had the Tomb of the Cybermen element where they burst out of there. There were lots of lovely little touches.
But you also had the clear mouthpiece, which I thought was excellent because you get to see that human inside, which I think was gradually through the 80s diminished until it was almost disappeared by Silver Nemesis.
Did you also like the?
They should have kept that.
Did you also?
But you know why they did it? Because they just kept. They kept hiding the fact that their mics had fallen down, so they just kept spraying silver on the glass.
Yeah, you can't have that microphone like on the Zygon. Remember that photograph where you saw the mic just there? But I'm just thinking
for Cybermen that don't feel pain, the 80 Cybermen do a really good job of pain. It's like
Oh well, no. Simon Anthony was in our thread. I was only recording a show with him yesterday because, as you know, he worked for the BBC as a video editor, and he was talking about Earthshock because that's one of his stories. I won't spoil it too much, but he talks about the bit with Adric at the end, Matthew Waterhouse, and the explosion and all the rest of it. And the reason I had to do the take again is to do with the noise from the Cyberman. I'll say no more at the moment because one of my Magic of Doctor Who mini series is with Simon Anthony talking about that. So Alphabet Cat. The Visitation is very good, just behind Revelation and Earthshock as Saywood's best work. You see, I actually quite like Saywood's work. I am one of those, to be honest. I kind of need more of that.
Especially when he kills everyone.
Yes, yeah. Let's have more death, please. But I was going to say back to Dwayne when you were talking about the transparent mouthpiece. That moment when Peter Davison's doctor talks about eating a well-prepared meal and all that. Do you like that speech?
Well, there are moments in Earthshock where you see bits of emotion through the mouth, like he's almost gritting his teeth at times, which is kind of, it goes a bit against what the Cybermen were supposed to be. I guess that's, I forgive that because I like David. Oh, what's his name?
Banks.
What's his name?
Yeah,
David Banks' performance. So, and his voice, I think, is really good the way they did that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you can't have everything you want. I mean, I prefer a more metallic looking Cyberman. I'll be honest with you. You know, like go back to Invasion and Tomb and that, and they seem to look more metallic and
So it's
rigid.
black and white.
Yeah. They are obviously, when you get to that age and you're going, oh, they're gloves from that have been sprayed silver. There's an element of that, and you think, I know where they've got that from. And I know the Tomb of the Cybermen, you can say they're ping pong balls, but apart from that, I don't know.
Whatever they are, Boomer Doug will wear them and dance down Rundle Mall.
He'll wear
Doesn't
two glitter ping pong balls with budgie. Thomas,
but you know David Banks, where he's like, where he's getting killed at the end of Earthshock.
Yeah,
like that's the best Cyberman death scene. Where and not only that, like Davison's launching into him with the sonic the cyber blaster, and then it's like killing it. Spraying an insect with he just goes for that extra. He's already dead, but he keeps going.
But didn't this throw something up about Doctor Who canon rules, mythology, that you can't fire in the TARDIS?
Yeah, but it was broken.
Yes, it wasn't working that day.
Yeah. Well, machinery, you know what it's like. I mean, little things like that. Sometimes you go, oh, well, hold on.
I think the next episode they did throw at some point put a throwaway line in there to explain the fact that it just should have been working.
I tell you, one of the worst moments in season 19, if I'm playing fair, was Adric had died at the end of Earthshock, and when Time Flight was on, he came back as a hallucination. I thought, I'm over him already. Don't bring him back. I don't want him back. My grief is gone.
I do have to disagree with Dan on the Cyberman death. I think the best Cyberman death scenes are from the five Doctors.
That's true. Yeah, I stand corrected. But I still love the way that the way they die in absolute agony. It's like, and you're just going, I thought you didn't feel pain.
I tell you what, though, you got to give the actors credit for playing Cybermen, because I put a Cyberman helmet on, and it's very, very claustrophobic. Wow.
Yeah, they're screwed in, aren't they? They're screwed in.
Yeah, and to be screwed in as well.
Yeah. Boomer Doug will be up for it. But but
some people pay good money into that.
Yes.
The thing is, and I'm just picking out funny moments now just because I'm being cheeky, but there was the moment where all the silos are, and Tegan's been, she's a warrior now. She's a warrior queen with a gun and her outfit, and she's with the other fella, the other military leader. And remember, you saw two Cybermen, and they were talking to each other as if they were talking about the kids. Oh, yeah, the kids are at school. They're doing well with the football. You could see them chatting away there. And I thought, that's not Cybermen. Cybermen should be just rigid. They've got nothing to talk about. They're just, but you could see them. Yeah, the kids are doing well at school. Yeah, he's been moved up class, and they're just extras, dodgy. Now, Divine and Dragon, fair dues. He's reminding me we've got 96 watching at the moment. 27 likes. Away, you tight lot. Away, classroom. Everybody, give me a like hike now. Subscribe. Check your subscriptions. Share, tell people about us, tell us that I'm going to do executive orders starting next week, and when Drain has a life, there'll be loads of executive orders delivered. So yes, thanks for joining us, everybody. And yeah, please just check you've looked after us. PB Props, the visitation was excellent, and the robot used to give me the creeps. What, the 80s one? It was like a Top of the Pops extra. Sadako, there was a nice optimism to season 19. Unfortunately, Davison's next season was incredibly pessimistic and miserable. Is this where we hit the anticlimax? Because everybody was talking about the 20th season, and J&T had bigged it up, and he said, we're going to have monsters back. We're going to have things from all of Doctor Who's past. And you're going, wow. And actually, season 19 actually had the balance better. I know there's some accidents that happened and strikes and stuff like that, but season 19 just had it really well done. I thought it had a damn good variety of stories.
It did. My biggest regret of season 20, though, was that they never got William Russell back as Ian, which was the plan for Mordred Undead.
Yes. That's...
Instead of the Brig, was it?
Yeah.
That would have been good, actually.
Yep.
Oh, God, totally. But you see, remember when Barbara, she didn't exactly come back as Barbara, but in Megalos, and you think, oh, why don't you bring her back as Barbara, for God's sake?
Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah.
See, if they did that to the Brig these days, we'd be up in arms going, you destroyed the character.
We probably would. It wasn't my thing. I didn't really like what they did with the Brigadier. I found it a bit tedious. I hadn't associated the Brigadier with being in a private boys' school and all that twaddle. I didn't. It just didn't seem right.
And PTSD.
Yeah. Well,
doesn't strike me as a guy that would have PTSD.
No, it's a bit too close to home, really. Davison here was the opposite of a curate's egg. It was greater than the sum of its parts. Nicely put, actually, Adrian. Fifth Doctor equivalent of the double tap. I mean, there's a lot of love for this era. I get the sense the Doctor hated having to do the deed and was trying to make the Cyber Leader's death as quick as possible. Do you think so?
I don't think so. I think he enjoyed this. I think he loved every second of it.
I know. I wasn't getting that vibe, but yeah, as Paul Richards says, Time Flight is hilarious. I mean, I have got that photograph. I mean, for everything that it does like that. I mean, hello, come on. I mean,
shalom.
Why was that Peter Grimrade who wrote this? I'm trying to think. Why did we think the Master should be? I know he did disguises. I get that. But why that? I'm in this strange space and I'm nicking Concord and all the rest of it. So I need to dress like an Oriental man. What? It made no sense. Shalom. I felt as though I was watching. Can you remember, Jeremy? Because I didn't ask the other two because I'm not sure what they saw in Australia. But when you watch the Banana Splits, there was was it Shazam, the cartoon?
Shazam, yeah.
And it Khalid always reminded me, Shazam, buddy. And I was like, oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, but I get it. It's one thing to dress up as Khalid, but when he, what do you call it? He dies, he just starts frothing, and it's like, what, you rigged your disguise to just go like goo.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
That's like a real commitment to a disguise.
And it was the same. It looked like dodgy shaving foam that came out of the Resurrection of the Daleks, that came out of the Sea Devils. I mean, they had the whole green pus. I mean, it was in then, wasn't it?
Green boogers.
And then Noel's house party decided to show it in the Gunge machine. I mean, that's the era we're in here. So let's have a look.
Can I just say, speaking of Shazam, I loved Shazam myself.
Did you see it as well? I don't know what you saw.
Yeah. Did they have a little camel in there called Kabuki or something like that?
Oh, it was lovely.
They used to ride around on.
Was it actually called the Arabian Nights as well? There was and the Three Musketeers that had that cartoon.
Was the one where they shrunk the car down to small size? What was that called?
Don't know.
Oh, I know. I need to do this on Talking TV when I do. Yeah. PB Props. Also, golf balls on the Tomb Cybermen. What about that chair caster plates and the air freshener on the end of the cyber guns? My question on the Cybermen is always to do with how they've designed, the design's changed, and I don't know why they need a gun now, the Cybermen. And I know you said a few weeks ago, well, the Invasion Cybermen did, but the original Mondasian. It was different, wasn't it?
I love watching PB's channel when he's restoring stuff because you get right up close and see how it actually was made. It's really cool.
I know, and I keep meaning to say, and it's my fault. I keep meaning to get him on, and then he's up for it. I know. Alphabet Cat, the 5 Dr. Cyberman massacre is gruesome, puking gringo, and all the rest of it. Paul, I don't think that we'll ever see the likes of season 19 again in the modern show. There isn't enough talent or professionalism among the production team. Well, you could say J&T was lucky to have Eric Sayward. I know they argued later on, but actually Eric Sayward made a lot of this, didn't he? He did The Visitation, he did Earthshock, and I think he kept it right, I have to say. And then we have the Christopher H. Bidmead element from Logopolis, Castrovalva, and all that stuff. Picking a master who's not manic. I mean, I know at the time, sometimes I thought Anthony Ainley almost did fall into, I'll try and be kind, but he was there as a master. But why we went from that kind of master presentation to now where they're mad, they're just mad. I'd prefer Anthony Ainley's portrayal, I'll be honest with you.
I'd prefer somebody like in the style of Roger Delgado.
Well, yeah,
more like business-like, more sort of underplayed. I think that would work quite well.
Do you know, my honest truth is, out of all the masters, the one that absolutely I'd love is the Peter Pratt emaciated master. That was just so macabre. Absolutely. Oh, it's a shame he couldn't.
Well, I don't know why we didn't keep Derek Jacobi for more than 5 minutes as the master, because he was better as the master than any of them put together in that 5 minutes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. It just,
he was restrained. He was totally evil, but he had a restraint about him, which is the same, similar to Delgado. He had that restraint as well.
A methodology.
Well,
I did like how much Ainley seemed to really enjoy what he was up to.
Yeah. And he had lots of disguises. He was the Portreeve, wasn't he? Was he the Portreeve? Is that what he's called? Yeah. And although the disguises were, I think you could always see in the eyes. It was a bit like in Kin's Demons. You thought, that's the master. That's the master doing a rubbish French accent. But we all remember the cricket ball moment that scientists said you can't do. It's not physics. I remember that bit. But Doctor Who's always done stuff like that. You said, Dwayne, you like this one. I must admit, it's the one I missed through. That I know. I don't know. Just doesn't get me.
As a two-parter, it's not too bad.
Well, thank God it's a two-parter, I say. That's what I say. Sorry. So
probably better for it.
The one thing I didn't is leaving Tegan at the airport, a cliffhanger into another season. It's something that RTD said he'd never do. And J&T, I wonder why J&T did that. Was it necessary to do that?
Wasn't it the contract had actually expired and they literally just worked out a deal over the break?
A bit like Nissa having to stay in the TARDIS in Kinder because of the very same reason. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Well, there we go.
I don't know why they brought it back, though.
Yeah, don't say that to Janet Fielding, but yeah, I don't know why they brought her back, because I think she'd done a course, really.
It's a bit of a coincidence, though, isn't it, that she happens to be there in Amsterdam at the same time he's there as well.
Yeah, and her
but saying that, it was a coincidence when I was in London once and I was down at the bottom of an escalator and I thought, that face is familiar, and it was Janet Fielding.
So she's just everywhere.
And I blurted out, embarrassingly, I said, Janet, and then she turned round. She's
a bit like an avatar then, she's everywhere.
But what a coincidence. That is really strange, isn't it?
Well,
so she has a mouth on legs?
She certainly is. No. Sadako says she's J&T wanted a cliffhanger ending. He always intended to bring them back. So there you go. He tends to know his stuff, does Sadako. David Harding, Black Orchid, the last purely historical Doctor Who story. The only aliens in the story are the Doctor and his companions. And there's a lot of love for Derek Jacobi. I mean, have you done the big finish on Derek Jacobi? I haven't listened to him yet as a master. You, I dare say, have, Dwayne.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yep.
And does it
I
change
liked
canon?
him as Robot Master in Screaming the Shocker.
Okay. I don't. So we've got a final. Oh, there, the big cliffhanger. The final Vox Pops in the Vortex for today and to finish us off is actually to do with season 19. That's why I've got it. And here we've got, it's very amusing how the visitation introduces us to this sinister, silent, grim reaper figure. And then it'd reveal that under the mask and cloak, it's an android that seems to have escaped some futuristic revival of Starlight Express. Discuss. But I think you've kind of jumped the gun then. You said that basically. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of love for season 19. It was a happy time. I was at secondary school. We're buying the Doctor Who monthly for 45p. And they were telling us what was in the stories a little bit, apart from the Cybermen. They'd said, that what the visitation was about a little bit, excited you, whet the appetite. They were telling you enough. Whereas now they just say it's about a doctor who's something you've never recognized before. So, lads, that was the detox that was. I didn't press the toxic button, but I should have, shouldn't I? I may have triggered people. I'm supposed to have a trigger warning, and I forgot. There'll be people going to therapy at Donna Noble's house now. Sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. Sorry. Let me just if I should have done that, let me remind you. I know what Doctor Who should be, and let me calm the nerves before we go. Exactement. It's easy. So all I had to do was get some scary music, get some of the old monsters in, and bingo. And RTD can't do that with a Disney budget. I think you can. I think you're trying to do avoidance. So, Dwayne, what's coming up on Sirens of Audio?
As I said, we're doing a 2024 retrospective, and the three of us who are presenting on that show are giving our top 5 releases for 2024. It's a huge one. Coming out in a few hours' time, actually.
Ah, there you go. Timey-wimey. There you go. And Jeremy, are you restoring anything? Is K9 now complete?
No, he's not complete yet. I've got to put the electrics in whenever I get any time free time to do it. At the moment, I'm just so busy at the moment.
Well, you had 2 hours when you came on our stream. You should have been finishing off K9. I'm sorry, but Oh gosh. And Dan, what are you up to? Have you ordered anything, Doctor Who wise for your collection behind you?
No, I've got season 7 on order, so that's what I'm waiting for at the moment.
Okay. Oh God, I know it's only a month away, but the 1970 Doctor Who Chronicles magazine is coming out, I think, literally in a few days' time. So, well, in Britain, I'm sorry, you Aussies.
Yeah, we can't. It's
I know.
not harder for us to get it. You're going to pay a fortune.
I found this in a secondhand bookshop a couple of days ago. Double Detection, Vicky's Victory and the Mystery of the Missing Train, written by Terence Dix. So I thought I'd check out some of his other stuff.
Yeah, well,
see how he writes.
Some of these people
purely for kids, that one.
You think of how much then did he? I mean, when did he sleep? I just don't. Wow, impressive.
Especially in an era before the word processor.
Yeah, it's a bit like when I used to teach Shakespeare, and you realize he died when he was about 53, and you thought he wrote all that, and I'm older than him. Right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. As you know, me and Rachel are on live tonight at 7 p.m. That was the week that was woke. Where do I start? Lego, that's obviously heteros. Oh, God. There's so much tonight, folks. It's going to be a mega show on all the nonsense that's been going on. I don't know where to start. Well, I can't wait, though, I have to say. So that was the week that was woke. It's a whopper. So 7 p.m. tonight, tune in, folks, because you'll have a laugh. I tell you, there'll be lots of common sense. I might be on a rant again. So
heteronormative Lego doesn't make much sense to me, because I would have thought it would associate more with the T, given that it can be both male and female.
How can it be how can it be heteronormative? That means every bricklayer is doing some really dodgy stuff. I mean,
about-
it's just
What about stickle bricks?
yeah. And somebody said, "What about Meccano?" That's very off and wrong. So please, all the jokes of tonight, folks. 7 p.m. live. We're going to have the whopper of a walk fest. So thanks, lads. I really do appreciate it. It's been a damn good laugh. Even though Dwayne came back and had no life this week. No.
Yeah, he's only been with us when he's got no life.
Yeah. So, and just final words. As I said, the thread to me is always my classroom. That when they don't want, or they don't want to go to bed. That's a classic talking TV one. Adrian Sherlock, executive order: remove woke from entertainment. I wonder how long that will take for Britain. Goodbye, everybody, and thanks, lads. Thank you, everybody, and
Bye.
thanks for the thread.
See ya.
Bye.
So,